On today's episode of the franchise, we're going to recap some of the biggest headlines from the 2023 NFL Draft. Basically, all the rounds, not just round one. We're going to talk a lot about round one, but the biggest headlines, the biggest news to come out of the NFL Draft, we're going to talk about that, as well as Lamar Jackson getting the biggest contract extension in NFL history, only a few weeks after Jalen Hurts set that mark. Also, going to give out MLB Power Rankings for this week and my MLB Team of the Month from April, players that are struggling right now this season. And then we're going to talk some NBA playoffs as the second round is well underway of the NBA playoffs. Before we get into today's episode, as always, franchise available, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can find the Twitter, TikTok, Instagram in the description of every single episode. All right, let's start here with recapping the NFL Draft. We're going to do some of the bigger ones. We're not going to go through the entire first round, but a lot of the big news to come out of there. So number one overall was Bryce Young. I think we all expected that. Really no surprises here. Best quarterback in the draft. And we've expected Bryce Young to go number one overall for almost a month leading up to the draft. Number two is where the draft really began in the Texans. There was talk of them going defensive player, going Will Anderson Jr., not liking a quarterback, them not liking CJ Stroud, them trading out, them not going with the conventional assumed pick of CJ Stroud. Well, they did go with CJ Stroud. They drafted him number two overall. I think this was the right pick. It didn't make sense to not draft a quarterback in this draft, let alone at number two, because you can't take the chance of waiting till next season to draft a quarterback. Even if next year's quarterback class might be better, might have better prospects, there's just too many quarterbacks in this year's draft, and you're sitting here at number two with the opportunity to get one of them. And you take CJ Stroud, who should be a really great player in the NFL. I think he's going to be a great player. I really like CJ Stroud, and I like the fit here with Houston. Arizona, originally at number three, and they trade with the Texans. The Texans trade up from 12. They had 2 first-round picks. They trade up from 12, go up to 3, and they have back-to-back picks, and they get the best defensive player on the board, Will Anderson Jr., out of Alabama. You get D'Amico Ryans, his quarterback of the future, and his star defensive anchor on that defensive line for the future. I love this draft for Houston. Now, Arizona got a nice haul too, right? They trade this pick, and they get Houston's first-round pick next season, which, if you look at what that could be based off of what Houston's projected to do next season and what the Cardinals are supposed to be next year with Kyler Murray missing a good chunk of the season recovering from his ACL injury, the Cardinals have the opportunity to land 2 top 5 picks, 2 top 3 picks, or even the number 1 and number 2 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, which has a lot of talent. Caleb Williams, Drake May, 2 quarterbacks. Marvin Harrison Jr., probably the best wide receiver prospect of all time. Brock Bowers, the best tight end in college football. Joe Alt, a tackle. There's a lot of great prospects next year in the 2024 draft. And if Arizona lands the number 1 and number 2 overall pick, that's going to be crazy. And let's just say Arizona gets the number 1 overall pick. I think there's a real chance that Kyler Murray gets moved on from, or they obviously trade the number 1 overall pick. But there's a lot of quarterbacks in next year's draft. But focusing on this year, Texans trade up. They get 2 and 3. They get Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. The Colts took Anthony Richardson at 4. It was either him or Will Levis. They were taking a quarterback, and it was either Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. And they went with Richardson. They went with the high potential upside of him being the best quarterback in the NFL, which I truly believe if everything goes right for Anthony Richardson and he's developed correctly, he can be the best quarterback in the NFL. His athleticism, his arm, his legs, his ability to sense pressure and move around in the pocket and make off-balance throws and have zip on the ball and type windows is elite. That's just a matter of doing it consistently for Anthony Richardson, and we'll see how he does it here in Indianapolis with the Colts. I don't think he'll start right away this season, right? They have Gardner Minshew. I think he'll most likely start the season. But Anthony Richardson will be the starting quarterback of the Colts at some point during the regular season. The Seahawks took Devon Witherspoon at 5. This was a nice pick. They could have definitely addressed the defensive line, in particular the interior, with a guy like Jalen Carter to help stop the run and obviously to help get after these quarterbacks in the NFC. They went corner here addressing the secondary, which was already pretty good last season. But now you add a corner in Devon Witherspoon, a physical, strong corner, uh, to a secondary in Seattle that was already really good last season. And then all of a sudden, it's going to be really hard for these opposing teams in the NFC uh, to throw the ball in the air against Seattle when you have this kind of secondary for the Seahawks. The Lions traded out of 6 to the Cardinals, and they drafted Paris Johnson Jr. The Cardinals did. This was a pick that Kyler Murray vouched for. He vouched for Paris Johnson Jr. to be drafted to this team. And if Arizona traded out, which they did, Paris Johnson Jr., if he was available, was the guy that they were going to take. Kyler Murray needs some pass protection, especially coming off of an ACL injury. And Paris Johnson Jr. is easily the best offensive lineman in this draft. Love the pick here. For the Cardinals, the Raiders got Tyree Wilson, the edge out of Texas Tech. He had the potential to go as high as 2. He falls all the way down here to 7. Great pickup here for the Raiders. They could have won Jalen Carter. I would have liked that pick also to address the interior defensive line. But you get an edge rusher to pair on the other side of Max Crosby to get after Mahomes, Herbert, and Russell Wilson in your division. Very nice pickup for the Raiders. Christian Gonzalez would have made sense too to address the secondary. I think the defensive line, getting Tyree Wilson here is a really great pickup. Falcons, they took Bijan Robinson at 8. This one was kind of a lock, but I love the pick. Maybe I think 8 is definitely a little too high for a running back. But if Bijan Robinson does what he did at Texas in the NFL, the next 5-6 years of Bijan Robinson in Atlanta are going to be extremely fun to watch. And pairing him with Kyle Pitts and Drake London on that offense for Desmond Ridder, I think makes them one of the better teams in that NFC South division. You know, that division has the Saints, has the Falcons, has the Panthers, and then has the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Falcons might be one of the favorites to win that division. And Bijan Robinson is going to have a big impact on this team next season. Sitting at 9 was the Bears. They trade down with the Eagles, and the Eagles take Jalen Carter. This is a great pickup. This is a guy that's easily the best player in the draft. Falls down because of some off-the-field character issues. But, I mean, if he can do what he did at Georgia, he's going to be one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL. Great pickup here for the Eagles. They had one of the best drafts of any team this year. The Bears took Darnell Wright, some protection for Justin Fields. Titans went Peter Skoronski here at 11. Will Levis was sitting right here, right? Will Levis falls a lot in this draft, and there's a few teams here and there throughout the first round that you could definitely make sense in your head of them taking Will Levis. They go Peter Skoronski, and I like this pick for the Titans. They lost a lot of their offensive line in the offseason, and you need to protect the quarterback. And with Ryan Tannehill coming back for one more season, most likely, and then obviously you draft Will Levis in the second round, you're going to want someone to help protect him and to give him some time in the pocket and to allow Derrick Henry to run the football. So I like the pickup of Peter Skoronski. The Lions sitting here at 12 after trading down with Arizona, they go Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is a great running back. I think he has, a lot of the comps are Alvin Kamara comps, but him going here at 12, I think they definitely could have got him later on in the first round if they wanted to trade back. But him, in terms of just a pure football player, not of where he got picked, he's going to have a big impact on this Detroit offense for Jared Goff. They obviously traded DeAndre Swift later on in the draft to the Eagles, which is a great pickup for the Eagles. First of all, DeAndre Swift to the Eagles, he's going to be really great for them. They have the best offensive line in football. Pair him with Jalen Hurts, and that running attack in Philadelphia is going to be amazing. But Jahmyr Gibbs here to the Lions to pair with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams when he comes back, David Montgomery they brought over in the offseason from the Bears with Jared Goff, with a decent offensive line. I love the pick here for the Lions, although it might have been a reach to draft him here at 12. Still a great pickup. Lucas Van Ness to the Packers. It didn't surprise me that they didn't go with a skill position player, wide receiver, or tight end. They go defensive line, and Lucas Van Ness, edge out of Iowa. Great pickup here. This guy's a very physical, strong pass rusher, and should be really, really good for the Packers, who struggled last year on the defensive side of the ball. The Patriots sitting here at 14. This is one of the biggest moves I like, is the Steelers trading up with the Patriots, jumping the Jets, and drafting an offensive lineman. The last offensive tackle remaining on the board that really was a lock to be a first-round pick. There was 4 great tackles in this draft: Paris Johnson, Peter Skoronski, Darnell Wright, and then Broderick Jones. And with those first 3 going off the board in the top 11, a team like the Steelers needed to jump the Jets and draft an offensive lineman, because the Jets were kind of a lock to draft an offensive lineman if one was there. But with the Steelers, right, they have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. They need some protection for Kenny Pickett. They need to allow Najee Harris to run the football like he did his rookie season, because last year with that offensive line, Najee Harris was not an impactful player. But adding Broderick Jones to help strengthen, whether it's the left side or the right side of that offensive line for Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris, really helps out. And I love that they jumped up in front of the Jets, because the Jets were going to take Broderick Jones if he was available. It made sense for them to protect Aaron Rodgers. So them jumping the Jets and realizing that they need to improve the offensive line was a great move for the Steelers. I also like what the Patriots did, trading down from 14 to 17, getting an extra 4th-round pick, and then drafting the best corner in the class, in my opinion, in Christian Gonzalez from the University of Oregon, the best man-to-man corner in the draft. I also like here what the Seahawks did at 20 with Jackson Smith-Njigba to play most likely the slot receiver position in Seattle, to pair with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Geno Smith has a plethora of offensive weapons. It's in particular in that wide receiver group. And Jackson Smith-Njigba most likely going to play the slot, but he can also go outside, right? He can go outside. He can move Lockett into the slot. I love the pick of Jackson Smith-Njigba. The best receiver on the board goes here, 20 to Seattle. And then we got 4 straight receivers going after, or including Njigba, you got 4 straight receivers go. The Chargers took Quentin Johnston, deep ball threat here for Justin Herbert to pair with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. It's a great pick. They needed to address the receiver room. They have a lot of receivers that are injury prone in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Those guys are great when they're healthy, but they haven't been healthy a lot over the past few seasons. Adding a young receiver for Justin Herbert is exactly what they needed to do. The Ravens took Zay Flowers out of Boston College, another vertical deep ball threat, very shifty, fast receiver here for Lamar Jackson, who signed a contract extension earlier in the day on the draft of the 1st round. To go with Odell Beckham Jr., adding Zay Flowers is a great pickup that Lamar's going to have for, the next 5+ years if everything goes right for Zay Flowers. And then the Vikings, they took Jordan Addison. Outside of just Justin Jefferson, they had no receivers, right? Jalen Reagor is not a good receiver in the NFL. Adding Jordan Addison, who has the potential to be a really, really great receiver, the Vikings could have one of the best 1-2 wide receiver duos by the end of next season if Jordan Addison has a great rookie year. There was definitely the thought of them taking a quarterback, in particular Will Levis, right? Kirk Cousins is on the last year of his deal. He has no guaranteed money after this year. It was definitely a thought that, hey, they could take Will Levis, let him sit behind Kirk Cousins, and then move forward with Will Levis in 2024. But I like the pick of Addison to add another weapon for Kirk Cousins. The Bills, they jumped the Cowboys. They move up from 27 to 25, and they took Dalton Kincaid. I think if he was here for the Cowboys, it would have taken him. And I like the pick for the Bills. It was either a receiver or a tight end, in my opinion, is what the Bills needed to take. And they go best tight end, best pass-catching tight end in this draft, and Kincaid. To go with Diggs, to go with Gabe Davis. Josh Allen has some nice weapons here in Buffalo. And then the other pick I really like is the Eagles taking Nolan Smith at 30 to pair with Jalen Carter, to pair with Jordan Davis on former Georgia defensive players. I mean, the Eagles pretty much have an entire the entire Georgia football team over the last 2 seasons. And this Eagles defensive line, this pass rush for the Eagles is absolutely elite. Adding Jalen Carter, adding Nolan Smith, not just the defensive line. I mean, the whole defense for the Eagles in general is incredible. Brandon Graham, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat. You obviously add Nolan Smith. You have Hassan Reddick, Nakobe Dean at that linebacker position. This Eagles team is incredible. And then you obviously draft Keely Ringo in the 3rd round, I believe. You have Darius Slay, James Bradbury. This Eagles team on that defensive side of the ball is absolutely loaded. And then that offense for the Eagles is loaded too. I mean, we'll talk about them later on in the year, but this Eagles team is easily the best team in the NFL. Some other moves I like from the draft. Joey Porter Jr. going 32nd overall, first pick of the second round here to the Steelers. They get they get an offensive tackle, which they needed, and then they get a corner who I thought was going to go in the first round, falls to the second round. He's a little handsy in college, not a lot of interceptions, but the Steelers can develop this guy. Mike Tomlin can develop this guy to be a very nice lockdown corner. Will Levis obviously went 33rd overall to the Titans, going to be the quarterback of the future after Ryan Tannehill. He's not going to start this year. I doubt that, but he will probably get a few opportunities to start this year. But then 2024 is definitely Will Levis' season. Hendon Hooker went to the Lions in the third round. This was interesting because Jared Goff is like probably the second or third best quarterback in the NFC, and they decide to draft Hendon Hooker. So does that mean they don't believe in Jared Goff, or does that mean that they think Hendon Hooker is just going to be a backup in the NFL? Do they not think he can be a starter? It's going to be interesting to see what they do with him, because I did think I think there was better teams to take Hendon Hooker, like the Vikings, like the Seahawks, than the Lions. I don't think it made much sense for Detroit to do that because Jared Goff is really, really good. Really good. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC right now. And that doesn't just mean he's not one of the best in the NFL. I think he's almost top 10. He's definitely top 15 quarterback in the NFL. Michael Mayer went to the Raiders in the second round, replacing Darren Waller at the tight end position. And then the Lions, they also took Brian Branch, defensive back out of Alabama. I thought he was going to go in the first round. I think he fell all the way to the third. Great pick for the Lions. I think they had a great draft. Jack Campbell, huge 6'5", 6'6" linebacker up the middle. Jahmyr Gibbs, Brian Branch, and then obviously Hendon Hooker, which is a kind of a questionable pick here for the Lions. All right, let's go through here. Let's do MLB Power Rankings for this week. Number one team for the fourth week in a row is the Tampa Bay Rays, 23-6 on the season, 7-3 in their last 10. Last week, took 3 out of 4 games from the Chicago White Sox, but they lost a series to the Houston Astros, losing 2 out of 3 games. 23-6, best record in baseball. They're still at the top. But how much longer? I mean, there's some teams on the come up. Number 2 is the Pirates. Once again, sitting at number 2, no change from last week. They're 20-9 on the season, 8-2 in their last 10. Last week, they took 2 out of 3 from the Nationals and 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. The Pirates and Rays, they have a 3-game set, I believe, starting tonight on Tuesday. The two best teams in terms of overall record in baseball. Going to have a nice little series here. Should be a very fun one to watch. Pirates stay at 2. Orioles move up 1 spot from last week. They go to number 3 in the power rankings. They are 19-9 on the year, 8-2 in their last 10. And last week, they took 3 out of 4 games from the Tigers and 2 out of 3 from the Boston Red Sox. The Atlanta Braves move up 3 spots to number 4. They're 19-10 on the year, 5-5 in their last 10. Took 2 out of 3 from the Mets and 3 out of 4 from the Miami Marlins. The Blue Jays move up 3 spots to number 5. And they're 18-11 on the season, 7-3 in their last 10. They took 2 out of 3 from the Mariners, and then they swept the Chicago White Sox last week. The Brewers are at 6. They moved down 3 spots from last week. They're 18-10 on the year, 5-5 in their last 10. 2 out of 3 games they took from the Angels, but they lost a series to the Tigers, which definitely hurts. And that is the reason why they dropped this week, because they lost a series to the Detroit Tigers. Minnesota Twins are up 6 spots, going up here to number 7, 17-12 on the year, 6-4 in their last 10. Last week, they took 3 out of 4 games from the Royals and 2 out of 3 from the New York Yankees. Rangers go down 3 spots to number 8, 17-11 on the season, 5-5 in their last 10. They took 3 out of 4 games from the Yankees, which that alone would have bumped them up this week, but they got swept by the Cincinnati Reds, which hurts them and ultimately is the reason that they fall this week a few spots here. Number 9 is the Dodgers. They move up 6 spots, and this is their first time in the top 10 all season long, outside of obviously the preseason power rankings. 7-3 in their last 10. They swept the St. Louis Cardinals last week, but they lost 2 out of 3 games to the Pittsburgh Pirates. But the Pirates are one of the best teams in baseball right now, so don't hold that much. Don't hold it that much against them this week. The Astros are at 10. They move up 1 spot. This is their first time in the top 10 outside of the opening day power rankings. 16-13 on the year, 7-3 in their last 10. They lost the series to the Phillies 2-3. In terms of games won, they only won one of those games. And then they took 2 out of 3 from the Rays, the best team in baseball. All right, going through the rest here, 11 through 30 pretty quickly. The Mets move down 5 spots to number 11. The Marlins stay put at number 12. The D-backs move up 3 spots to 13. The Red Sox stay here at 14. The Padres move up 4 spots to 15. Phillies go up 1 to 16. Cubs are down 7 spots from 10 to 17 here. The Yankees moved down 9 spots. It's the biggest drop of any team this week. They are 3-7 in their last 10. They are at 18 this week. The Angels are up 2 spots, 15-14 on the year, 6-4 in their last 10. The Cleveland Guardians down 2 spots from last week. The Mariners down 1 spot at 21. 22 is the Reds, up 5 spots. 23, San Francisco Giants, who moved down a spot from last week. The Tigers stay put at 24. Nationals stay put at 25. The Cardinals are at 26, moving down 3 spots. The Rockies move up 2 spots to 27. The Royals stay put at 28. The White Sox move down 3 spots to 29. They're 8-21 on the season. And number 30 for the 3rd week in a row is the Oakland A's, having a record of 6-23 on the season. All right, we're going to do my MLB Team of the Month for April. I'm going to do this every single month, right? You're going to have a May Team of the Month, June, July. These are the best players at each position, regardless of league, for the month of April. Starting pitcher of the month, Sonny Gray of the Twins. 4-0 record throughout the month of April. 0.77 ERA, 41 strikeouts, a 1.06 WHIP, and has only allowed 3 earned runs this season. He's been absolutely dominant on the mound. You could have went with Garrett Cole, Shohei Ohtani, Luis Castillo, Spencer Strider. There's a lot of other pitchers, on the board that have had great starts of the season. But I think Sonny Gray has had the best out of any pitcher in baseball, has had the best month of April. Relief pitcher, I'm going with David Bednar of the Pirates. 9 saves, a .69 ERA, 17 strikeouts, and a .69 WHIP. He's on a team that's playing amazing baseball, and he's being lights out right now as a closer. As at my catcher position, I'm with Sean Murphy of the Braves. 282 average, 8 homers, 1,000 OPS, 647 slug, and a .413 on base percentage. With Sean Murphy, it was either him or Adley Rutschman, but Sean Murphy so far this season, I think, has been a little bit better at the plate. Higher OPS, a few more home runs. He's just been a little more productive. Adley Rutschman will definitely be on this list at some point throughout the season. But I went with Sean Murphy for the month of April. At first base, I went with Yandy Diaz of the Rays. He's part of the reason why they are the number 1 team in baseball right now. 319 average, 7 homers, 1,000 OPS, 420 on base, and a .505 slugging for Yandy Diaz this season. Second base, I went with Luis Arias, who's currently leading all of Major League Baseball with a .438 batting average, 1,000 OPS, a .500 on base percentage, which is absolutely wild, and a .550 slugging for the reigning American League batting champ, now a part of the Miami Marlins. Third base, how about Matt Chapman of the Blue Jays with a .379 average, 5 homers, a 1.132 OPS, 462 on base, and a .670 slug to start the season for Matt Chapman. A guy who's in a contract year is starting off absolutely flaming hot for the Toronto Blue Jays. And shortstop, how about his teammate Bo Bichette? 344 average, 7 homers, 931 OPS, 379 on base, 552 slug, and he leads all of Major League Baseball with 43 hits to start the season. My 3 outfielders, Jared Kelenic of the Mariners, finally is breaking out after spending, 3 to 4 seasons in the Major League level. We've been waiting for this guy to tap into his potential, and during the month of April, he did that. 308 average, 7 homers, 982 OPS, a .615 slugging for Jared Kelenic. Brandon Marsh, 337 average,
4 homers, a 1,000 OPS, a 640 slugging, and a 422 on base to go along with some gold glove defense in center field for Brandon Marsh of the Phillies. And then Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Braves, a 363 average, 5 homers, 1,000 OPS, 13 stolen bases, 450 on base, and a 584 slugging for Ronald Acuna Jr. And then my DH for the month of April is Shohei Ohtani with a 294 average, 7 homers, 897 OPS, 355 on base, and a 541 slugging. All right, here's a few players who are not starting off the season so hot. They've had a very rough month of April, and these guys have had great careers, had great years last year, and you just expect them to do a lot better. And the first one's Manny Machado. 237 average this season, 4 homers, a 671 OPS, and has an on-base percentage of 285. When you look at his advanced stats, everything is in the blue in terms of his percentile rankings. His X batting average, his X WOBA, his hard hit percentage is at 41%. His walk rate is in the 30th percentile. His strikeout rate is in the 42nd. He's not barreling it up the ball. He's chasing. He's swinging, missing at a lot of pitches. He's not hitting the ball hard. Manny Machado is just not having a productive start to the season here for the San Diego Padres, and I have him as the second best third baseman in baseball to start the season. I do expect him at some point to turn up. Right, the Padres need him to play better, but also the whole outside of Xander Bogaerts, the entire Padres offense is playing horrible to start the season. So I expect them to turn it up, but Manny Machado is having a very bad start to the season, and his teammate Juan Soto is too. All right, a 214 average, 5 home runs, 780 OPS, 382 on base, 28 walks, 32 strikeouts. When you look at his baseball savant, right, it looks nice. A lot of stuff is in the red, right? He's hitting the ball hard. He's not swinging, missing. He's not chasing. He's playing like his numbers look like, his advanced metrics look like typical Juan Soto, but he's just not hitting the ball. He's not putting the ball in play. He's walking a lot. He's striking out a lot. It's a lot of flyouts, ground outs. He's just not getting on base in terms of hitting the ball. Not a lot of doubles, not a lot of singles, not a lot of home runs for Juan Soto. So, I mean, since he's gone over to the Padres, he's not been what he was when he was with the Washington Nationals, which is one of the best hitters on the planet, a guy that could hit 300 plus and hit 25 home runs a season. Alek Manoah is on this list, 4.88 ERA. He was third place in American League Cy Young voting last season, 28 strikeouts on the season, a 1.63 whip, 17 earned runs allowed. Looking at his baseball savant page, a lot of stuff is in the blue. Fastball velo is in the 45th percentile. His walk rate's at 14. His strikeouts in the 29th. Batting average, xERA, all of those are very, very low. Now, he's not getting hit hard, 38th percentile in terms of hard hit percentage. Or actually, that's really bad. It's his slider is the reason why he's not as good as he was last season. Last year, his slider was disgusting. That thing started as a strike and it ended way out of the zone. A lot of swing and misses. This year, starts as a strike, not a lot of movement, stays as a strike, and then the hitters are just mashing Alek Manoah. Nolan Arenado is also struggling pretty bad this season. I'd say he's easily the worst on this list. 239 average, 2 home runs, 600 OPS, 281 on base, 319 slugging, 26 strikeouts to start the year for Nolan Arenado, and he's only walked 7 times. A guy who finished second in NL MVP last season. I have him as the 5th best player in baseball to start the season. This is not the kind of start you expect from Nolan Arenado offensively. This is absolutely horrible. He needs to turn it up ASAP for the Cardinals, because the Cardinals are playing horrible baseball right now. They're one of the worst teams in the league. And then the final player I have here who's been very bad this month is Sandy Alcantara, the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner with a 5.04 ERA, 26 strikeouts, and a 1.15 whip. When you look at Sandy's baseball savant, it's just not looking great. Fastball velo in the 96th percentile, his chase rate in the 70th, but his walk rate's low. His X slug is low, X batting average, hard hits right at the 54th. This is just not the kind of stuff you're expecting from Sandy Alcantara. A lot of games, a lot of starts where he's given up lots of runs, not made it deep into, he's made it deep into a few games, but Sandy has just not been living up to what the reigning Cy Young Award winner is supposed to do. All right, we're going to talk about some NBA playoffs here. Second round, game 1 between the Sixers and the Boston Celtics, and James Harden played great in this game. Sixers go up 1-0 in this series, winning this game 119-115 without Joel Embiid, and James Harden puts up 45 points, 7 for 14 from the three-point range, 17 for 30 from the field. He had a three-pointer to basically to put the Sixers up by 2 on the Celtics with a few seconds remaining in the game. Pretty much iced it for the Sixers, and this is a game that James Harden needed to have against the Celtics especially without Joel Embiid. If Embiid's there, Harden can always get away with his 26 points and stuff like that, but without Joel Embiid, Harden needed to have an all-time performance, and he had a great game last night, obviously putting up 45 points and really dominating like he used to back with the Houston Rockets. Maxey had 26 points, Harris had 18 and 5, and D'Anthony Melton 17 points, 5 for 6 from 3 off the bench. For the Celtics, Tatum had 39, 11, 4 for 5 from 3. Jaylen Brown, 23 points, 3 for 4 from the three-point range, 8 for 10 from the field. Brogdon had 20. Boston, it was a tight game the whole time. James Harden obviously hit that clutch shot. I just think the Celtics, they had an all-time collapse, right? They just, when it came to the fourth quarter and it came to clutch time, Tatum didn't show up. Brown didn't show up. Those guys just didn't play how you expect them to play. And I think they're probably the favorite right now in the East when you look at the teams remaining. They're the 2 seed. They should be the team that they should be dominating. They should be a team that's going to the finals. But after this performance in game 1, it definitely raises some questions. You allowed the Hawks to take you to 6 games, and then you lose game 1 to the Sixers without Joel Embiid. So what does it mean when Embiid comes back? The Celtics need to win game 2. They cannot go down 2-0 because at that point, I think the Sixers might just win the series if they go up 2-0. The other series from last night, Denver going up, taking a 2-0 lead on the Phoenix Suns, winning that game 97-87. KD, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 2 for 12 from 3. Very bad three-point shooting night for Kevin Durant. Booker had 35 points, 4 for 8 from 3. CP3 left the game with a groin injury. DeAndre Ayton put up 14 points. Jokic, 39 points, 16 boards. Aaron Gordon, 16 points. Jamal Murray only had 10 points, 0 for 9 from 3. He didn't even play great in this game, and Denver still won by 10. I think this series really shows you the difference between a team that has traded their depth away for a star and then a team in Denver that has added or just has tons of depth. Denver has so many guys on this team that are able to make an impact off the bench or in the starting lineup compared to Phoenix that traded away their best defensive players and Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges. And those are also guys that can make big-time shots in the mid-range and beyond the arc for Kevin Durant, which was a great trade. I think they should have made that trade 100 times out of 100. But you lost a lot of depth. And if Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and you're not getting contribution from either CP3 or DeAndre Ayton, it's going to be very tough, especially when the opposing team's bench is going to outscore your bench every single night. So Denver's up 2-0. We're going back to Phoenix. I don't think it's over. I think the Suns are definitely capable of taking this to 7 games. But Denver's having a very dominating start to the series. Tonight on Tuesday, Heat take on the Knicks in game 2. Miami already took game 1. Jimmy Butler has been amazing this postseason. And them being the 8th seed, I think they're bound to beat the Knicks. I think they have, obviously, Julius Randle without game 1 for the Knicks, and it was just Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett. But I like this Heat team better. I think Jimmy Butler is an all-time playoff performer with Bam, Gabe Vincent, Kevin Love, Martin, Duncan Robinson. This Heat team, I think, just has better players with more postseason experience than the Knicks. I like Jalen Brunson, right? Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Obi Toppin, but like Emmanuel Quickly, Derrick Rose doesn't even get rotational minutes. Mitchell Robinson. I mean, some of these guys, I think the Heat have the advantage, even though they are the 8th seed. I think the Heat are going to go up 2-0 in this series tonight. And then you have game 1 between the Lakers and the Warriors. Steph versus LeBron for the first time since the 2019 finals. It's going to be a great series. I was a Lakers fan. I think the Lakers, I hope they win. And I'm going to pick them to win. Right? The Warriors played great against the Kings in that 7-game series. But they're playing against a completely different type of team, right? Sabonis and Anthony Davis are 2 completely different types of bigs in the paint. And Anthony Davis is going to dominate Kevon Looney on the glass. And any player that comes in, Anthony Davis is going to be absolutely dominant defensively. And when AD's on offense in the post, getting down into the paint, good luck to Kevon Looney trying to stop Anthony Davis coming straight at you. And then same thing. I mean, the Lakers are going to have to defend Steph and Clay and Andrew Wiggins, but I think this Lakers team is completely different from, I mean, it's obviously completely different. It's way better. It fits LeBron and AD more. Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell's had some flashes here and there throughout the first round. LeBron hasn't even really had his takeover game yet in the postseason. So I think the Lakers win this series in 7 games since it hasn't even started yet. All right. Finally, Dillon Brooks. The Grizzlies told Dillon Brooks he will not be brought back this offseason under any circumstances. Dillon Brooks, free agent this offseason, and he's going to be gone from the Grizzlies. He put up 14 points this season during the regular season, 2 assists, 3 rebounds, 39% from the field, 32% from 3. And in the series versus the Lakers, where he talked a lot of smack to LeBron, got ejected, and I think he was such a major distraction to this team, which is part of the reason why they lost to the Lakers. He put up 10 points, 23% from the 3, 31% from the field. He's trying to be a tenacious defensive player, a guy that gets under your skin. Dillon Brooks is just not capable of doing that. And he's not an impactful player offensively or defensively for that to warrant the Grizzlies bringing him back. This is a Grizzlies team that is close to competing for a championship. I think getting rid of Dillon Brooks is going to improve their ceiling compared to him currently lowering their floor with him on roster. I don't know what team's going to pick him up. Probably the Shanghai Sharks. I don't see any NBA team picking up Dillon Brooks. But no, most likely some team's going to sign him. Probably some like a team that's out of the postseason or a play-in type of team. Maybe the Chicago Bulls. But that's going to do it for this episode of the franchise. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music is where you can watch or listen to the franchise. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram in the description of every single episode. We'll be back on Wednesday with another episode. Going to recap the NBA games from tonight and whatever else happens. We didn't even talk about Lamar Jackson, so we'll talk about that tomorrow on the franchise.